Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I am interviewing leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week, every Monday and Thursday. In today's show, it is my pleasure to speak with Kelly Reeves. Kelly, you are an NLP certified personal growth and business coach, a writer, humanitarian, and also a co-founder of a non-profit animal rescue. After 20 years of a successful career in PR and marketing, you officially gave that up a few months ago to focus on your coaching practice. Kelly, welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm delighted to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Kelly, shall we start with your journey? In specific, I would like to ask you to share with us a key defining moment in your journey so far.
Gosh, there's been so many. So I started out in fashion PR, and that's how I got into public relations. And I did PR for some major fashion houses. And then I started working. I got a job with Howard Stern, of all people, in New York when he was on public radio. And then I thought, oh, gosh, I want to be on radio, on broadcast. I ended up out in Los Angeles thinking that was the career path. And I somehow fell into tech PR in about year 2000 when the whole .com boom was taking off. And I started my tech PR company in 2002. And that was a defining moment as an entrepreneur because I was leaving the corporate world and starting my own company. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty exciting. And, and it was exciting because it was so early on in technology when, cell phones were just really coming out and the internet was just, and I launched the first wireless routers before Wi-Fi became ubiquitous. So mm-hmm. It was a cool journey. It's been a cool journey over the past 20 some odd years to see the evolution of tech and how it's gone to where we sit here right now on Zoom. And so that's been really cool. But I think when I decided that I'm 48, and when I was 46, I started thinking, okay, I've had a good run in public relations. I don't know if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I had started the rescue, and that was a huge passion of mine. And I kind of wanted to do something more than just getting people in Forbes magazine and the Wall Street Journal or something, because to me that wasn't serving in the way I wanted to serve. Mm-hmm. So I got my coaching certification to be an entrepreneurship and business coach. And I started mentoring students over at the Paul Mirage School of Business at UCI here, which is I think it's the top 25 business school in the nation. And they have a Masters of Entrepreneurship program. And then I got my NLP certification. So that was a big turning point to let go of a long time career and a business that really did serve me well and say, okay, I've been really successful. I've done really well for myself, but it's just not fulfilling. So when you come to that realization that, okay, it's not fulfilling, but what am I going to do? And you start doing the soul searching. That was, I guess, a big turning point probably recently.
Thank you. And I read in your story that there was another point in your journey when you faced incredible hardship and you almost lost everything, including your home. So is that, it sounds like a big moment. Do you want to share something about that? Maybe your experience with that or your learning?
Yeah, well, I learned that you can't be a one-person shop and serve your clients and not scale. And that was so when I went through that big kind of financial downfall in like 2016, 2017, that was when I started thinking, okay, maybe PR isn't for me. But I really, almost like I couldn't see my way out of it because I'd been doing it for so long. But my lesson now is, and what I teach people is scale. Don't be all about, you want to serve your clients and do a good job, but you also have to serve yourself and your business. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. So it's a delicate balance, but I was just all about my clients and getting them the results and making sure that they were happy. And I wasn't really serving my business and myself. And that was my biggest lesson coming out of that, is that if you're going to have a business, then yes, serve your clients, offer tremendous value, but also you're in a business too. So you've got to, work in your business and on your business at the same time.
Yeah, of course. You have to sustain yourself first of all. If you don't help yourself first, then you can't help anyone else.
That's true.
Kelly, you mentioned and it is something that you specialize or niche in, and that is the age group of over 40s. And I can certainly relate with that because, I had my own epiphanies or big changes after I was about 42 or something like that. Can you tell me, what do you think is the reason? What happens during that time that shifts people's perceptions and they want to go into soul searching and figure out things?
I think you get to the second half of your life and when you're in your 20s and like you're young and on fire, you can explore things and you're getting settled or just started really. And then in your 30s, you're kind of like, okay, I'm getting settled, and maybe you're in an executive position and you're able to buy a home, starting a family. But then when you get into your 40s, you start to see that second half of life. Like, oh gosh, I'm really not getting any younger. and I'm not going to live forever. And what do I want to do? And that's what people call the midlife crisis, which actually it isn't a crisis. I think it's a midlife, evolution, because you get to look back from, the if I knew then what I know now perspective, and say, okay, well, I do know what I know now. So what can I do with that and start over? And I think that's the one thing that gets people over 40 kind of hung up on is I'm too old and it's too late to start. I'm too old. And I always say you're not. It's actually every day is a new day. And think of all the stuff now at 40 or 50 or in your 60s, and what you can do with that, and use that, what you know now, to start something new and different. And I think especially now with what we've been going through with COVID and lockdowns and uncertainty, people are really starting to reflect on their lives and think, okay, what is it I really want to do, and how do I want the rest of it to look? And it's a really cool place to be. It's a scary place to be, because then you're thinking, okay, well, what do I do? And that's what people get kind of stuck on, because the not knowing. We all want to know. We all want certainty. But it's a good time, I think, for kind of renewal and reinvention. And I think a lot of emphasis is you see it in the media and everywhere, is millennials, like millennial this, millennial that. I'm like, wait a minute, we're not out to pasture yet. I mean, and they're great, but what about the 40-year-old, the 50-year-old? And so that's why I focus on entrepreneurs over 40, because I'm almost 50 and I made a huge shift in my life after a long career. And I'm seeing that more and more of people over 40. And it's really cool that they're getting this kind of second chance, I guess, or they're giving themselves a second chance.
There is something that comes with getting older, and that is experience. And people, and that is a fact of life, that people who are in their 30s or 20s or millennials or Generation Y or whatever else, they can't have that, because there is only one way to gain experience of life, and that is by living and living. And it is inevitable. And I'll just make a quick comment, because you mentioned the term midlife crisis. I think crisis happens to the people who resist that this is what's going on, that, well, I'm not that young anymore. I'm
Uh-huh.
going towards the second half of my life. And
Yeah.
if you really fight that and you don't accept it, then you're in for a big crisis. Whereas if you embrace it,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's what it is, and it's actually a blessing to get older, because the only other alternative, I don't think it's very
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
getting older, it's a blessing. Um, Kelly, I wanted to ask you about your coaching and your specialize in teaching your entrepreneurs over 40 about how to leverage their talents and their passions, their knowledge, and create either a business or transition into their career. So, can you talk to me about that? And I will ask some more specific things in a moment.
Yeah. Well, so I think, well, at this time, like you said, we have a lot of experience. And the one thing I see in the various business groups, so like KBB and another, I'm in a business group of just female entrepreneurs over 40 and a couple others. And the one thing people always comment on is that, okay, I've got so many ideas. I'm 45, I'm 50, and there's so many things I could do with it. So how do I put it together? And I found myself in that situation, like, okay, I have this PR career that I have tons of experience in. I have the, rescue. So I have the nonprofit experience. I have the coaching experience. I'm a professional copywriter. I'm working on my second book. So how do I, and so I realized, like, okay, how can you bring all of the stuff that you've learned over the years to the table? Because it is such a gift, like you said. So how do you package that gift and offer it to people that may need it? People get stuck, I think, on the pick just one. You have to have this one client avatar, and you've got to, it's all the pick one. And I think it makes people kind of nervous, especially when you do have a ton of experience and you have a lot to offer. So, so I kind of help people get clarity on, okay, what is you want to kind of hone in on with these, you say you got 5 things. Okay, let's pick a couple, and how do we package it together? So like my book I'm writing is, I'm using my NLP experience, the studying I've done of like spiritual leaders like Eckhart Tolle and Michael Singer and Deepak Chopra, and packaging it in a book about dogs, because I rescue dogs. So, so it's putting those two together into one product or offer, and that's what I help people do.
Okay. Now, I'm wondering whether I should start asking you about, because that's something I want to go into, the spirituality and the dogs and all that. I think I will leave that for a little bit later and just carry on a little bit with the coaching and the business thing. And, I'm sure you've seen it many times that people have difficulty understanding or finding their niche, because between all those talents, experiences, and expertise that they've gained over the years, sometimes they struggle to figure out what it is that it is uniquely their core competency, and really what is fulfilling for them to do. So what are your thoughts in that, or how should one go about to really determine what it is that they could make a business from?
Well, I think for me, I found I just took notice of how I was helping people, and it was just it's kind of like an unconscious. So with the mentoring the students, and so it's like, okay, I can help people on an entrepreneurial level start a business, and I just found how I could help people. And when I started seeing like the commonality of the people I was helping, and I realized it is my own life experience too. And I think that's what people need to bring to the table in their business, is their own experiences, because that's what's going to allow you to connect with your audience and engage with them and really understand them, and vice versa, because you've been there and you've gone through the journey. So then you get to help other people through the journey. And that's kind of when you're a coach or a consultant or teacher, your job is to help people through their journey, and whatever that journey may be, be it business or relationships or weight loss. It's got to be something that you can really identify with personally. Otherwise, you're not going to have that passion for it, and you're not going to have the ability to really serve and give, because otherwise you're just kind of disconnected from it. And I see a lot of people thinking, oh, I see this coach being super successful at X, but they're not connecting to it because they're just seeing somebody else do it and seeing somebody else successful. So you really have to connect to it. So it does take soul searching, and it takes just really being self-aware of what you're passionate about and how you can serve and who you find yourself serving. Even if you're not getting paid for it, what is that thing that just sparks you like, oh my God, so when somebody asks me to help them start their business, I get all excited about it. And another side, when somebody asks me about dogs, I get all excited because I know about it and it's my passion. And so you just have to really, what's that spark? What makes you excited to talk about? And people don't think that, oh, I can do this thing just because I'm excited of talking about it, even if it's a hobby. I started during COVID, I started doing flower arrangements just because it was creative and I love flowers. And I thought, wow, I could actually start a business out of doing flower arrangements. And they're not, I'm not a professional. I've never had any training, but if you just take something that you love and find out, okay, how can I take this thing that I love and help others? Then you have a business right there. You just need to figure out the logistics of pricing, offer, marketing, and there you go.
Kelly, do you find that people who have not had experience of entrepreneurship in the past, or maybe they have a corporate job or employees of any kind, do you find that they struggle to transition?
Yeah, I do, because they're afraid to leave, the mothership because they're so accustomed to getting paid every 2 weeks, and the insurance and the things like, oh, we've got the department that's going to make my business cards for me or book my travel. And it's really hard to let go of that comfort, especially if you have a mortgage and a family, and that's a consistent income that you can plan on. When you jump ship and you go to entrepreneurship, there's a lot of uncertainties, and there's a lot of, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to, pay my bills? How am I going to do this? And I did a newsletter last night. I went out this morning where I said, it doesn't matter if you have $1 million in savings. Like, the money is one aspect. It's really the mindset that is the key component. So you can have $1 million in savings, and that would be nice, but you really can't start that business unless you're mentally prepared to do so.
It does take a mindset shift, doesn't it? It's a whole new approach to taking risks and how you see security, safety, and the adventures of the unknown.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for it and be okay with it, and know, like, it's not going to be perfect, and know that you're going to stumble along the way because you've never done it. And there's going to be mistakes, and there's going to be mishaps and fears, but it's just, to keep going. And it is scary. I know I left a job. When I left my job to start the PR company, I thought, okay, wow, I'm really doing this. Okay. I'm going to leave that corporate job. I'm going to leave that paycheck that's consistent. I now have to hustle and figure it out on my own. I have to do everything. I can't go to a different department and go, hey, can you write that newsletter? Or, hey, can you set up the advertising? It was all on me. And oh, hey, can you help me with accounting? Or HR? You end up wearing every single hat in the company until you can get to the point where you can pay people. But it's a big leap. But if you can get in the right mindset and just believe that you can do it, you have the experience. And that's the thing people get into, like the imposter syndrome. Like, oh gosh, even though I have 20 years at this company and all this experience and working with these clients and this proven track record, I don't think people will actually buy it. And that's another big thing that people run into when they're starting out on their own.
Mm-hmm. Talking about imposter syndrome, and you mentioned the fears, and we were talking earlier before we started recording about the self-doubt, all those things. What's your advice or your thoughts even on how can one face them and deal with all those things?
Yeah, I mean, I would say get a good mentor or coach. Mm-hmm. Like, don't go it alone. Meditate, journal, read, study. I mean, I really got into just reading book after book on, personal growth and business, and it just bulking up my knowledge, and you can never stop learning. But I think that's kind of the key, because you're going to be afraid. But if you're so afraid that you don't do it, then you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then when you look back and go, gosh, I shouldn't have been so afraid, I could have done that, then there's going to be a lot of regret that you don't want. But the fears are going to be there, but it's just, how do you face them? And I would say, definitely have a mentor, be a part of entrepreneur groups on Facebook, because you and I are on the same one, and they're super helpful. You go in, you ask a question, and everybody's willing to help, and everybody's been there on that journey. And, they did step one, and they're helping you take step one and then step two. So you just have to kind of close your eyes and jump, and just believe that you can do it.
Talking about the group, the KBB, the Knowledge Broker Blueprint, I want you to share with me if there was one thing that it has helped you the most. What would you say it is?
I think it has given me a lot of confidence, and you can't, I studied Tony Robbins, but actually, like, really being a part of the program that he created, because I've been in other coaching programs, and they really don't hit as hard on mindset as KBB does, in my opinion, and maybe because it's Tony Robbins and that's his thing. And he's just so inspirational, and Dean is so inspirational. But I think it allowed me to break through some of my own personal barriers, just because, when you're in a group of people that have had those same barriers, and you can be honest and authentic and say, hey, I'm dealing with this personal barrier or this issue, and everybody's willing to help. That's been really good, because even though I teach mindset and help with that, it doesn't mean I'm perfect with it. I get caught up myself sometimes. And so to have a group of fellow entrepreneurs that are and then, seeing the people that are just starting out, where I'm a little bit ahead of them, and I can go back and help them. And then that's when I'm like, oh, wow, I really do know that. Okay. Surprise. So, so it's been a great group. It's been really helpful, and they're really uplifting and encouraging, and like, they're the best cheerleaders.
Certainly. And a phrase that they use often there, and Dean Graziosi uses it, is a culture of progress. Always being better, looking at yourself a week before, or a month before, or a year before, and realizing that you've made progress, and only comparing yourself to how you used to be, rather than comparing yourself to other people, which really makes you feel, or it can make you feel inadequate or a failure if you compare your present situation to someone else's, maybe chapter 100, which you don't really know what they've been through to be where they are.
And I call that comparisonitis as a mindset issue, because we do. And you see people that post like, oh, I'm just made $50,000 on my funnel today. And that could get people kind of discouraged rather than encouraged, because they think they're not there. But I always say, like, you don't know the journey that person went on to get to that place. Or, like, and some people I know, I'm like, they already had a business, a foundation in place, and it took them, X amount to build to the point where they could say, I made $50,000 today. They had a struggle, they had a journey, they had the same thing. So don't look at somebody else thinking, oh, they've got this beautiful website and look at all these professional photos and I have to catch up and I got to be like that, because that's just going to get you stuck and you're not going to get anywhere. So just be okay with where you are in your journey and know that you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Just, make sure you have a roadmap and a strategy, because, you want to go from LA to New York. They're already in New York. Be okay with just being in Utah right now, So, because you'll eventually get there, but you just got to keep going and don't get stuck and hung up on somebody else's journey, because you don't know what they've been through or, what they already had before they got there. I mean, if you look at Tony Robbins, he got to start out with working with Jim Rohn, and it's just like, okay, you couldn't ask for a better mentor. Then if you look at like Amy Porterfield, she worked with Tony Robbins. So they had a foundation already that allowed them to get to the level where they are. So when you build that foundation yourself, then you're able to step it up and keep stepping it up.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at others' present situation, you really don't see what they have been through to reach that, as you said. It's one of my favorite phrases. It takes years to become an overnight success. It's so true.
It's true. It's true. And I that's like I said, somebody could post that they made, $50,000 that day, but it took them a lot to build up to that, where they could do that post. And I do love that people, when they do their posts, like, okay, this was where I started, 5-10 years ago, and I was homeless living in a van, and I had to do this, and I had to work 7 jobs, and all this stuff, and then they get to that point where they can say, okay, now I'm making this amount of money. And I love it when people do tell their journey, because it makes it really real. And I think sometimes when I see the ones that, the people in that group that were actually homeless, like I was living in my van and, I didn't have a penny to my name, and I had to, get out and work. And like, I think, okay, there's so many people that were already better off than that guy was. And he did it. So can you.
Yeah, these kinds of stories are always, for me, they're always inspiring and helpful to realize. And you know what, Kelly, there is one word that comes to mind when we talk about these things, and that word is faith. And I don't mean in the religious sense.
Yeah.
I mean in the belief that things will somehow work out. You mentioned the word jump a few times, and earlier on we were talking about the parachute, the skydiving, and it's really a great metaphor. And having faith, having the belief that it's going to work out, even though you don't know how on earth or how in heaven it will work out. It is something that personally I find very reassuring and very encouraging when I encounter the difficulties in my path, in my journey. And there will be lots of difficulties and obstacles.
There will. And it's really what's your attitude towards those difficulties and obstacles. And you can either let them bring you down or, lift you up to the next level. And I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm doing the audiobook. It's called The Magic of Believing. And it's really all about that. It's just having that unwavering faith and belief that no matter what, you're going to succeed. And when you do have that faith, and I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, and not that I want to get all like ooga booga on it, but but I do believe an energy you put out is the energy you get back. And if you have an energy of belief and faith that I'm going to do this, and just having an energy like joy and persistence, then you're going to get that back. But if you have an energy of failure and defeat and fear, then that's what you're going to get back too. So it's a really good book. I go on hikes every day, and I do my Instagram videos, because when I'm up on my hiking trails and it's really pretty up there, that's when I get inspired, and I just go on my Instagram real quick. And a lot of my videos are about that, about believing and faith and abundance and just not giving up and perseverance. And Yeah, and it does take an incredible amount of faith, but you just have to have this come hell or high water, I'm going to succeed attitude, and you will.
Yeah, and in a way, you really don't know whether you're going to fail more than you know if you're going to succeed. So it's in the very end, I think it's a choice that you make, because either way, you don't know what the future holds for you. So might as well believe and be optimistic and believe that things will work out, rather than having the opposite belief.
Yeah. Well, I like to do the what if game, because people are like, well, what if I
Uh-huh.
fail? What if I this? I go, okay, what if you switch the what if? What if I succeed? What if I do make $1
Yes.
million? What if I do create that business that thrives? What if I, and it really is, it's a mindset. And if you worry so much about the what if negative that could happen, then you're going to get caught up in it, because, and how the mind works, the mind starts to believe stuff that isn't real. And that's, in this book, I'm listening to, and it's repetition. When you either constantly hear it over and over, or you constantly think it over and over, then you start to believe it. And a belief is basically a thought that you repeat over and over. And it doesn't even have to be. It's like you said earlier. It's usually not even real. It's just something we were either told or we tell ourselves, and we get trapped in this belief pattern of what unfortunate things could happen, that we end up not going forward, rather than thinking about the fortunate things that could happen and taking that step towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of how humans are programmed. We unfortunately tend to gravitate more towards the negative than we do the positive. We remember the negative more than we do the positive. And it's just unfortunate the way we work. And you have to really work to switch that mindset to always having a positive mindset. And that doesn't mean like going, oh, I'm going to be skipping around in daisies all day. It's just, it just means that you're going to have a more satisfactory outlook on things. And Joe Dispenza and his teachings are just incredible when it comes to changing your mindset and your habits and the way you believe and look at things.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, shall we talk about, you started, you mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to ask you about the spirituality that you've studied. You said that you studied with spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle. The first thing I want you to tell me is, what does the term spirituality mean to you? If I would ask you to define that for me.
To me, spirituality just means just having an understanding that there's something higher and greater than, as a human. Because I think, okay, well, I'm just one mortal here on this earth, but I think there's a much bigger picture out there, and it's not. And I think people get hung up on the Christian God, and the faith, religion, and spirituality, and they could be three different things, or they could be one thing, depending upon your attitude. And I think the term God tends to get people kind of worked up a bit because of the religious aspect of it. But if you look at it like, okay, God is a higher power, whatever you call it, be it God or infinite intelligence or source energy or flying spaghetti monster, whatever you want, whatever you want to call it.
That's something I've never heard before, that description.
But it's something that is a higher belief than just you. And I think when you come to that realization that there's more than just me in this world and on this planet, and that's when spirituality comes in, because you start to learn that, or maybe realize that there's a way of going about things, how you treat others, how you treat yourself, which is a big deal, and how you respond to things, how you think about things, and just having an overall sense of gratitude. I think that's such a big, probably one of the most powerful emotions you can have is gratitude. And so spirituality to me just is just, there's just something higher and greater than just you.
Thank you. And I find fascinating what the topic of the book that you're writing, which you said about the lessons that dogs teach us about spirituality. So please explain that to me, and I'm really fascinated to hear about that, because it is, very honestly speaking, something that I'm not familiar with.
Well, it's kind of so Eckhart Tolle actually has a book called Guardians of Being, and if you've read The Power of Now or A New Earth, he's all about, his teachings are all about presence and awareness, and he translates it. His examples are plants, flowers, and animals, and how they're all purely present, and they're not thinking about COVID, they're not thinking about, here in California, we've got fires all over the place. It's like they're not thinking about the problems of our world. They just are. And dogs are probably the greatest examples that are closest, I think, to humans, because we get to interact with them hands-on every single day. Just the things I see in rescue, the amount of forgiveness that is there, the amount of resilience that is there, the unconditional love, the companionship. There's just something so deeply spiritual about dogs and what they have to offer humans, and that's what the book is pretty much about.
I suppose you've been a lover of animals and or dogs for a very long time. Is it? When did you first realize that connection between animals, or dogs in particular, and spirituality?
I think when I started rescuing them, because we tend to rescue some pretty severe abuse cases, and it's stuff that's not easy to see. But when you rescue a dog that has been through a terrible background, and just the sheer, it's like gratitude. Like, I know you saved me, and thank you. And there are dogs that I've rescued that we've rehabilitated. They've gone into new homes, and a couple years later, I'll see them and they still know me. They're still like, oh my God, like you're the person. So there's just something that's so pure there's a joke, like if a man locked his wife and his dog in the trunk of a car and 5 minutes later he opened it, who would be happy to see him? It would be the wife. So it's just that, wow, like how can a creature that's been through such terrible experience at the hands of humans still love and forgive and want to be a part of humans' lives. And that's there's just really something incredible about that spirit.
That's fascinating. Really, it is. So when will your book be ready?
Well, I have the outline.
I'm just asking because it is something that, as I told you, I'm not familiar with. And I used to have a dog as a kid or a teenager. I grew up with a dog, but since that time, since my 18 or something like that, I've never had a dog since. And I have fond memories of growing up and being with a dog, and this emotions that what you were describing, the joy, the forgiveness, the gratitude, all these things that the dog gives you, and that's regardless of what's going on. You go away for 10 minutes and then you come back and it's like he hasn't seen you for 10 years.
Yeah, the happiest. Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I would love to learn more about, really, because I think there is, if we can use that as a way to enhance our own spirituality and increase it, I think that would be a brilliant and a very useful opportunity.
Yeah, it's true. And so yesterday I was on Facebook, and one of my rescue friends. She has boxers. And, and here in California, like I said, there's fires all over, and, hundreds of thousands of acres have been burned and homes have been lost. And she's been out there kind of on the front lines, and she came home and, let the dogs out in the yard and took a picture, and they're all just like happy, like big happy dog face. And she's like, you know what? They don't even know what's going on. They don't care. And look how happy they are. And I go, well, if we could all just be that present and, like not think about the fires and the COVID and the politics and the this and the that, if we can just have that level of just pure joy, regardless of what's going on, then that's something that we could also learn from dogs, because that's exactly how they are. They're just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't care. Let's just go run around the yard. So there's lots of lessons there. And the book, I was supposed to go away next weekend on a solo retreat to write it. But the place I got the Airbnb is now, the whole area is on fire, in a fire area. So I have to rethink where I'm going. But I have the outline, I have the cover done. It's really just kind of all these pieces of paper I just need to put together into one comprehensive book, and then get it edited. And my goal is to have it out by the beginning of next year in print, sooner. Sooner as an ebook, or if I can do an audiobook or Kindle. So but it's getting there. I'm excited about it.
Awesome. There was just there's another thing that I wanted to discuss with you, and then I will ask you some quick fire questions as well. There was something I saw in your website. It was those snapcasts, those little snippets of inspiring thoughts or ideas that come to you, and you record them. And that really gave me the idea to maybe do something similar like that myself, because I do write them down. But what you do is even much better, because you can share them immediately with others and let others benefit from your inspired thoughts that come at random times, as you say.
Yeah, very random. So I carry my phone around, and it has the voice recorder. And the second it comes up, I'm like, okay, let me push play. And some of them sound like weird ramblings. So not all of them get posted, because I'm like, what was I thinking? But yeah, I found myself doing it more and more, of just like standing in my kitchen and thinking, wow, this is something inspirational, and I don't want to write it. Or if I'm driving and I can't write. So, and I just thought, well, wow, maybe somebody would be interested in listening to these, or maybe it could help somebody. So I started posting them. So, they're fun. They're good little tiny, like mini podcasts.
Yeah, that's what came to mind. Like a mini podcast, like 5 minutes or 7 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Like that. It is easily digestible, if you wish.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, let me ask you some quick fire questions as well.
Okay.
What does personal development mean to you?
I think it means growth. It means awareness. It means realizing that there could be something that you need to change about yourself and your life that you probably haven't been happy with for a long time. And it's time to change and grow out of it.
And let's say you were able to go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self. What's the one piece of advice you would give her?
Start a company called Google. I think that's everybody's. Or start Facebook. But I think I would have said to just, if you're going to start a business, and these are the things not to do, and these are the things to do. If I could, and start it sooner. Like, don't get caught up in all the BS that is out there. Like, just start early, hit the ground running, and learn all you can.
True. And BS, I suppose you mean belief system.
Right. Negative belief system. Yeah. Well, it's true. Yeah. I mean, because when you're 18 and you're and I would have said finish college. I didn't finish college. I started I was 4 years in, and I grew up in Georgia, and I decided to take the semester off and go to New York. And I got a job that summer in the PR department of Donna Karan and DKNY. And I was like, I'm going back to Georgia. Like I felt a kind of a trajectory going, but I never got my degree officially. And and I guess everybody's like, oh, it's just a piece of paper, but it's kind of like, that's the one thing my grandmother, may she rest in peace, had always said, get that degree, because she was an English professor. And I never did. And that's kind of one thing I would have said, at least finish. But yeah, that wasn't the path, I guess.
And let's say you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change something in the world as it is today. What would you change?
Oh, gosh. Well, I guess I would definitely change, animal abuse and animal abuse laws. I think that that's kind of the one area in our world where there isn't a ton of attention, just because animals don't get, humans get priority over animals. I love that, Quebec and New Zealand made pets sentient beings rather than property, which is what they are in most areas of the world. I think that would be the thing I would change, because it was, the quote is, you can tell the greatness of a nation by the way it treats its animals. And that was Mahatma Gandhi. And we actually, for our rescue, we have a T-shirt with that on it, because I think it's true. It's a measure of a person or even a nation is how they treat animals. So that would be the one thing I would like to change is animal abuse laws, and having a little more respect for our creatures.
Kelly, there is, now you brought to mind something that I hadn't planned of asking, but, there is, in many, because you mentioned the nations as well. So here in the UK, where I am, there is a big respect towards dogs, for example. However, people don't have the same respect over other animals. So if I say, for example, pigs or chicken or other living forms, what is your thoughts of that? Is it why some animals have respect, and people do respect them, and they are very fond of their dog, but they don't care at all about how chickens, for example, are being treated?
Well, I think it's one, the whole food aspect is I think there might also, there could be like an emotional detachment, because it's like, I eat it, I can't love it, and if you have that emotional attachment to that animal, then you can't, you see it in a whole different light. So I think that's part of it. And it could be that they're just thought of like, oh, they're just a product, not a living creature with feelings and emotions. And pigs, we have pigs in our rescue, and they're very smart. They're actually smarter than dogs. And they're actually loving creatures. You can have a pig in a home as a domestic pig, and they're really fun animals. But they're really smart. But I think because with animals like chickens and pigs and cows, people probably see them more as a product than they do an actual, being with emotions and a mind and a response system and understanding. And so, but I think it's easier for people to detach from that, because then if they go, oh gosh, I love this chicken, they're not going to be eating chicken.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. It's helpful to understand. Kelly, do you want to share with us one of your big breakthroughs or aha moments that you had recently?
I think, gosh, I feel like I have so many, but just, I told you I'm reading the book, The Magic of Believing. And I think there's been a lot of aha moments in that book. And it's always when I read a book, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Why didn't I think of that? But it goes back to faith, and just how deep your faith has to be in order to succeed at whatever you do. And, with this book, I thought, well, it's me and I get it. Other people get it. I don't know. It's just kind of, and I posted about it in another group I'm in. And people were like, oh my God, I love this idea. I'll buy this book. And I thought, oh, okay. So that goes back to believing, like just the aha moment of, I can do this. I can write a book, a nonfiction book. And I produced I don't call it a book. It was a weekly planner and gratitude journal that I put out. But like, okay, I know how to publish something, but can I publish an actual nonfiction book that will help people? And once I realized I could, then that's gave me the kind of encouragement and I guess empowerment to move forward with it.
Awesome. Do you want to also share with us a big mistake that you made recently so we can avoid making the same one?
Gosh. I think I made the biggest mistake I made in transitioning out of the PR company into the new company is I spent too much time on the little things that like, oh, I got to have this website and I've got to have this little thing and I got to have that little thing and I've got to have all these, pictures. It kind of goes back to, I was trying to keep up with people who are already well ahead of me in their coaching careers. And I spent so much time with the busy work that I wasn't actually creating and selling stuff. So I would say, because people get hung up like, oh, I have to have a website. I have to have a place to go to. But you really don't have to have all the bells and whistles to start your business. And I think, I made that mistake of thinking I had to have all that. And I spent so much time, wasted so much time that I didn't need to. So I would say, don't do that. Just get started, just get moving. And if you can afford to outsource somebody to do that stuff, then do that. But focus on what you have to offer and start getting out there and serving people, because I think everyone has a gift that the world needs. And if you're too busy behind the scenes, you're not giving your gift. So that was my big mistake, I would say.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I think this is very relatable to people. I know that I think many of us can hold our hand if one time or the other, being busy rather than doing the things that actually will make the difference. Just sweating the small stuff, the details, or trying to be perfect. Yes.
Well, you're never going to be perfect and you're never going to get it done. So, and that's what I always say. So just, do what you can and be okay with what you can't. And I think we get so caught up with, we want to do everything and we have this gigantic to-do list.
Yeah.
And we want to cram all that to-do list in today so we can go to tomorrow's gigantic to-do list. And but you're not going to ever get it done because today's to-do list is going to bleed into tomorrow. And so I actually started working on some productivity techniques. And one I love is the Pomodoro technique. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
yes,
I've started, using that and breaking my day into 5 big things. Like, what are the 5 things I have to accomplish today? And if you stick to those 5 things and you go, okay, well, but I still got to go to the store and pick that up, or I still got to send this little email. It's like, if you start to get pulling all these things out of the air that you need to do, then you're never going to get these 5 things done.
Yeah.
So so I love the Pomodoro technique because everything is slotted out in time segments, and it really helps you get organized. So I started using that about a month ago, and it's been really helpful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Kelly, is there anything that you were hoping I'd ask you today and I completely missed it?
I was thinking, oh, he has a dog. He wants dog advice. Because that's literally what I get all the time. Like, oh, you do this, and I have a rescue. Oh, well, my dog, he does this weird thing, and then I end up in dog advice. So I guess I need to get you a dog.
I actually visualize myself in the future doing that. So I think it's in a parallel universe. It's happened already. So I just need to merge that reality with the one I currently. How can people connect with you and find out more about what you do?
So they can go to my website, kellyleereeves.com, excuse me, or I'm on Facebook, kellyleereeves.com. I'm on Instagram at the Solopreneur, and it's Soul, Soul. That's pretty much the main three ways.
It's fantastic. I want to thank you very much for. I really enjoyed the conversation, and
I did too. Thank you.
There were some very useful and important moments or learnings or value, if you want. And thank you. I want to thank you very much for that. And I wish you all the best with your work at the Animal Rescue.
You too.
And with your book and everything.
Yeah.
Any parting words?
No, I guess I want to tell anybody who's, wanting to start a business that if they're watching this, that one, you can do it. Try to get past your fears, find help, get a mentor, join business groups to help. Don't go it alone. And if you're over 40 and you're ready to make a huge change in life, I'm here to help. That's what I do. But don't think you're too old, because you're not. And it's not too late. And I actually wrote about that on my blog on Medium. So if you go to my blog, it's on Medium, Kelly Lee Reeves. And I wrote about this topic, and you're not too old. It's not too late. If I can do it, you can do it. So I guess that's my parting words. And get a dog.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kelly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe and review Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this podcast with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to gain access to exclusive content while supporting this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpad. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, or if you have any questions, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.